Do you believe there were breakfasts that cost less than $0.10 but still fed an entire generation? No eggs, no meat, some dishes even used only water and fat. It may sound unbelievable, but Americans living in the 1950s ate like this every day. And in this list, there are dishes that make many people stop watching halfway. If you think you can watch until the end, press number 1 right now. Number 1. Applesauce bread. One autumn morning in 1952, the small kitchen had only a few bruised apples and some flour left. No butter, no milk, not enough sugar, but breakfast still had to be made. People mashed the soft apples into a thick mixture, mixed it with flour, a little baking soda, then poured it into a baking pan. No measuring, just watching the color and feeling it by hand. When the bread was done, the smell of apples filled the room. The crust was slightly crisp, the inside moist and soft, naturally lightly sweet. Nothing else was needed. During the Great Depression, this was how people replaced expensive ingredients, a recipe born from scarcity. It was not just bread, it was the way people turned what seemed like waste into breakfast. And when things became abundant, this bread disappeared as well. If you think this dish is already special, wait until the next one. It will be a surprise. Number 2. Bread with drippings. If tomorrow morning there is no butter, no eggs, would you dare to eat bread with only the leftover fat? Chicago, autumn 1956. In a small kitchen filled with cold air, the mother stood by the stove, and the grandmother stood there, slowly guiding. 2 children sat quietly, watching every movement. She opened an old tin box, took out the solidified fat from the night before. The mother placed the bread on a cast iron pan, waited exactly 1 minute for the surface to heat up. No butter, no cheese, just a thin layer of fat gently spread. The fat slowly melted, soaking deep into every part of the bread. No clear aroma, but something very real. The mother cut it in half, handed it to the 2 children. They ate quickly to make it to school on time. In post-war working-class neighborhoods, nothing was wasted, even the last bit of fat. Does anyone still remember that taste today? Number 3. Oatmeal with bacon grease. For just $0.20, some families lived through an entire winter with this one bowl of porridge. In a small kitchen, the grandmother stood by the stove before it was fully light outside. She opened an old tin box where the bacon grease from the day before was kept. Not much, but she knew it was enough. A handful of oats was poured into a pot of gently boiling water. No milk, no sugar. She stirred slowly, steadily, for about 5 minutes until the mixture began to thicken. When it was served into a bowl, she added a small spoon of bacon grease on top. It melted immediately, creating glossy streaks on the surface. She placed the bowl on the table, her eyes gentle. A warm scent spread through the air, not too fragrant, but enough to make people feel comforted. Number 4. Liver mush. Honestly, not everyone dares to eat this dish the first time. In North Carolina in the 1930s, when liver was the cheapest part of the pig, people ground the liver, mixed it with cornmeal and spices, then pressed it into a block. The next morning they sliced it thin, about 0.5 centimeters, fried it on a hot pan for 4 to 5 minutes on each side. The first bite, the outside was crispy, the inside soft and strong in flavor. Not easy to eat, but also impossible to forget. This dish used to be a main source of protein for many working-class families. Not because it was delicious, but because it was needed. And sometimes the things that make us hesitate at first are the ones that stay in memory the longest. If you were given this dish again, would you be brave enough to try it? Number 5. Toad in a hole. On a winter night in 1951 in Cleveland, Ohio, the cold cut deep into the bone. Yet the next morning, she still woke up before dawn. No need for a clock. Her body was used to starting at 5 every day. In the small kitchen, there were only a few slices of bread and exactly 2 eggs. But for her, that was enough. She placed the pan on the stove, waited about 1 to 2 minutes for it to heat up. A slice of bread was placed down, then a small circle was pressed in the middle using a glass. An egg was cracked into it, spreading slightly, sizzling in a thin layer of fat. After just 5 to 6 minutes, breakfast was ready. The child sat at the table, quietly watching. When biting into it, the crispy bread wrapped around the soft egg, warmth spreading through each small bite. If one day you only had exactly 2 eggs and 1 slice of bread left, could you do the same as her? Number 6. Milk toast. She placed the pot of milk on the stove first, heating it for about 2 to 3 minutes until warm, then turned to toast the slices of bread. In a small kitchen in Kansas, the morning began very early. Outside, the children were getting ready for school, while inside, the mother quietly made breakfast with what was left. Not much, just a few slices of bread and about 200 milliliters of milk. The bread was quickly toasted, torn into pieces into a bowl. The hot milk was poured over, with a little sugar added if there was any. It took less than 5 minutes. The children sat around the table, eating in silence. The dish was soft, warm, easy to swallow, enough to start a long day. During a time when many families had to tighten their spending, this was a familiar breakfast for those who were not well off. Nothing fancy, nothing special. But perhaps mornings like this raised an entire generation. Number 7. Mashed potato cakes. For just about $0.12, they could turn leftover potatoes into breakfast for the whole family. In a small kitchen, the mashed potatoes from the night before were shaped into small, round pieces. Not many seasonings were added, just a little salt. The pan heated up, the fat gently sizzled. The potato pieces were placed in, crackling, slowly turning golden and crispy. It took about 6 to 7 minutes. The outside became crisp, while the inside remained soft and warm. People ate slowly, feeling each layer of texture, crispy, then soft, then melting away. In places where there were not many choices, this was a way to stretch another day. No one called it creativity, but it was small things like this that kept hope alive for families who seemed to have nothing left. Number 8. Water gravy. There were mornings when she stood in front of an empty pan and still created a meal. The old kitchen, dim light, no milk, no meat, only a little fat left from the day before. She heated the fat, added a bit of flour, stirred until it turned light brown. Then she poured in water, just water. The mixture began to thicken, forming a thin sauce with a mild smell and a cloudy color. People poured it over bread, eating it while it was still hot. Not delicious in the usual way, but enough to keep going. This dish does not appear in cookbooks. It exists only in the memories of poor kitchens. You may not remember the taste of water gravy, but do you remember the one who made it for you? Number 9. Salmon patties. What would you do if the only thing in the kitchen was a can of salmon? In a small house in Jackson, Mississippi, the kitchen lit up with a dim yellow light. On the table, there was only a can of salmon costing about $0.20, a familiar food in many working-class families at that time. The woman opened the can, kept even the soft bones, mashed them together with the fish. She mixed it with breadcrumbs and 1 egg, shaped them into small patties that fit in the palm of her hand. The pan was heated for about 1 to 2 minutes. The patties were placed in, fried about 2 to 3 minutes on each side until evenly golden. A light smell of fish spread, not too strong, but enough to make the room feel warmer. When eaten, the outside was crispy, the inside soft and rich in flavor. Not a luxurious dish, but enough to start a day. Number 10. Fried fatback. There were mornings so quiet that the sound of fat sizzling in the pan was the only noise. During hard economic times in the American South, when food became scarce and every coin had to be counted, many families were left with only salted pork fat saved from the previous season. No lean meat, no seasoning, just fat and time. A thick piece of fatback was placed into a cold cast iron pan. The heat was increased slowly, not rushed. After about 6 to 8 minutes, the fat began to render, the outside turning deep golden and gradually crisp. If done right, the crust could snap, while the inside remained soft and rich. People ate it with bread or corn, simple but filling. The rendered fat was saved, used for later meals. This was not a delicious dish, but a way to survive through difficult days. Number 11. Johnny cakes. He once said the smell of corn cakes in the morning was like the smell of days when there were no other choices left. In New England in the early 20th century, when wheat flour was not always available, people used coarse cornmeal, hot water, and a pinch of salt. No eggs, no milk. They poured the mixture onto a hot pan, spread it thin, waited about 3 to 4 minutes on each side until the outside became crisp. When eaten, the cakes were dry, slightly firm, but had a very clear corn flavor, a simple taste that endured. This dish once fed workers during the pre-industrial period. No one called it a specialty, just that there was no other choice. Do you remember the feeling of having to eat something you did not like, just because there was nothing else? Number 12. Rice with milk and cinnamon. Rice with milk and cinnamon was not a complicated dish. It was the way a mother turned leftover rice into a complete breakfast for the family. Ohio, 1954. In a small kitchen at 5:30 in the morning, she gently opened the pot of rice from the night before, about 1 full bowl left. No one threw that away. She put the rice into a small pot, added about 250 milliliters of milk, 1 spoon of sugar, and a pinch of cinnamon. The heat was kept very low, stirred slowly for 5 to 7 minutes until the rice softened and thickened. The husband, getting ready for work, sat quietly at the table. The warm smell of cinnamon spread through the air. No one said much. When eaten, it was lightly sweet, gently rich, soft and smooth like something familiar from a long time ago. A breakfast that cost less than $0.15, but enough to start a new day. In many Midwestern families, this was a habit that lasted for decades. Number 13. Fried cornmeal mush. She stirred the cornmeal mixture until the wooden spoon could stand upright without falling. In Midwestern families, the cornmeal mixture was cooked with water and salt for about 10 minutes, then poured into a mold to sit overnight. The next morning, she cut it into thick slices, about 1 to 2 centimeters, placed them into a pan of hot fat. After just 3 to 4 minutes on each side, the outside became golden and crisp, while the inside remained soft. She did not need to look at a clock. Just hearing the sizzling sound was enough to know it was time to flip. This was once a common breakfast from the 19th century to the mid-20th century. Number 14. Coffee soup. The old man sat alone at an old wooden table, morning light slipping through a dusty window. The room was so quiet that every soft sound of the spoon touching the bowl could be clearly heard. In front of him was a bowl of hot coffee. He slowly broke pieces of dry bread, dropped them in, then added a little leftover milk. No stove, no waiting. He ate in small spoonfuls before the bread completely dissolved into the dark coffee. No inviting aroma, no appealing color, just an old habit left over from hard times. This dish once existed during years of scarcity, when each day began with whatever was left. And for him, it was not just breakfast, but a memory. Number 15. Fried grits cakes. What would you do with the leftover porridge from yesterday? In the American South, the answer was very simple. Grits were cooked from cornmeal with water and salt for about 15 minutes. The leftovers were poured into a mold and left to cool overnight. The next morning, people cut them into slices, fried them in a pan for 3 to 4 minutes on each side. Each piece turned light golden, the outside crisp, the inside soft. No one threw food away. No one needed a recipe. This dish appeared in the 19th century and lasted through many generations. Not because it was special, but because it made sense. And if today you had leftovers, would you throw them away or turn them into a new breakfast? Number 16. Scrapple. Have you ever looked at a dish and wondered if you were brave enough to try it? Scrapple was not for the faint-hearted. In the cold kitchens of Pennsylvania, every remaining part of the pig, liver, skin, scraps of meat was slowly cooked, mixed with cornmeal, then pressed into a firm, heavy block. When sliced, each neat piece was placed on a hot pan, sizzling, crispy on the outside but soft inside. A smell spread through the air, not fancy, but very real. This was not a dish of choice, but of necessity, of days when nothing could be wasted. For many people, scrapple was the memory of early mornings, of a simple table, but full of human warmth. Number 17. Creamed chipped beef on toast. For about $0.18 for a breakfast, but enough to keep the whole family from leaving the house hungry. In a small home in Pennsylvania after World War II, the father brought back not only memories of war, but also cooking habits from the camp. On the table, there were only a few slices of white bread, some dried beef, and about 200 milliliters of milk. The mother melted butter, added flour, stirred for 1 to 2 minutes. The milk was poured in slowly, forming a thick sauce. The beef was added, cooked for another 3 minutes. The bread was quickly toasted, then covered with the sauce. The child ate slowly, the salty and rich flavors blending together, not delicious in the way people expected, but enough to start a new day. And sometimes, enough was already a luxury. Number 18. Head cheese or souse. She said nothing as she cut the first piece. She quietly placed it on the plate like a familiar ritual. Head cheese or souse was made from parts few people wanted: ears, snout, skin, all cooked until soft, then pressed into a clear block, shining with natural gelatin. When sliced, each piece revealed layers of meat and skin, not beautiful in the usual way, but so real it could not be hidden. This dish was born from thrift, from times when people had to use everything to survive. For some, it was a strange food, but for others, it was the taste of family, of a tradition that could not be replaced. Not everyone liked it, but those who grew up with it would never truly forget it. Number 19. Apple stack cake. Imagine an autumn morning when the smell of apples and cinnamon fills a small wooden house. Apple stack cake was not a cake made in a hurry. Each thin layer was baked separately, then stacked together with softened, dried apples in between. Each layer was patience. Each level was a story. In Appalachia, this cake often appeared on special occasions, weddings, festivals, where each person brought a layer to create one complete cake. When sliced, each layer became visible, softening over time as it absorbed the light sweetness of apples. This was not just a dessert, but a symbol of sharing. Number 20. Kush. Have you ever eaten coffee with a spoon? In poor areas of Appalachia in 1959, when breakfast had nothing but old bread and weak coffee, people created something called coffee soup. Not because they liked it, but because they had no other choice. A piece of dry bread was broken into a bowl. Hot coffee was poured over it, with a little milk added if there was any. That was all. No butter, no sugar, nothing else. The bread began to soften, absorbing the coffee, turning into a mixture both thick and thin. People ate quickly before it became completely mushy. Not fragrant, not appealing, but enough to be full. Many children who grew up with this later even forgot they had ever eaten it, until one day the smell of coffee and bread suddenly brought the memory back. If you are still watching until this point, you are not only curious, but also patient enough to understand the stories behind each dish. And believe me, what you have just seen is only the beginning. Turn on notifications because the next video will take you to dishes that 90% of viewers would not dare to try, would not dare to try, would not dare to try.